Hey there, and welcome to the podcast Tiling Connect, hosted by Mark Moskwa. This show is designed to connect people with the best information intended to strengthen the business of tiling. To keep up to date with all the episodes, don't forget to subscribe.
Hey everybody, Mark here from Tiling Connect. Welcome to today's episode. We have the honour and privilege of speaking with Luca from Aesthetic Tile and Stone based on the Gold Coast. Welcome. And I won't give too much of a long, hearty introduction. I thought I'd just begin by passing the baton over to Luca and welcoming him to the show and get him to give us a background on his time in the industry.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for inviting me on. It's an absolute pleasure and honour to be a part of it. And I think what you've done is amazing. There's been a bit of a gap in the market regarding some tiling education and some people really speaking about this type of subject. So I'm really looking forward to today. Yeah,
awesome, man. Yeah. Well, look, tell us about your background in the tiling industry. I know you've got about, I think 2007 is when you joined tiling in an apprenticeship capacity, and so you're now sort of coming up to 15 plus years experience. So, mate, give us everything. Take us back to the beginning. How did it all start?
So from the very start, it was quite interesting. I went to primary school. I was raised by an Italian family. My parents migrated in the 60s. And my grandparents opened up a few of the first Italian restaurants on the Gold Coast, actually, which I'm born and bred on the coast, which is where I still am. And so I grew up in the hospitality space, sleeping in the restaurants. The hours are like crazy there. So that's all I knew. My whole life was that hospitality space. Went to private school, wasn't really an academic. I didn't really want to, go to university or anything like that. So just wasn't on the cards for me. And I dabbled in a few things. I started work very early, probably at the age of, I think 10 or 11, I got my first job selling mobile phones at Crown Markets. And then, so from there, I then went to City Beach when I was 13. And then, so from 13 to 15, I went to Billabong, and then I worked at Billabong, and then I worked at Coles probably from 16 to 17. And then that kind of takes me through to the end of high school. And I remember at the time during schoolies, actually, and I just finished school. I graduated. I think I failed. I'm not sure. I got a rank. It's not an OP. So even though I went to private school, I wasn't even eligible for an OP. But I think I did a boat building certificate, actually, that guaranteed me a certain rank.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't matter what my grades were. So I think I passed by default, but I think I should have failed. Anyways, I was at schoolies and I got home, and I remember kind of standing around, and my mum's partner at the time was a tiler, and he was, one of the big guns back in the day. He was competing or quoting up against people like Tile Corp, Dave Mullins, and back in the 80s and the 90s, and he did Brisbane Law Courts and Roma Street train station and a few large jobs, right? So this is around the time where he was actually slowing down because we were getting close to the GFC at that point too, where things kind of slowed down a bit for him. But I was having a beer, and I got home from schoolies, and he goes, "Well, so what are you doing now?" And I go, "Well, it's school holidays, so I'm not going to do anything." And he goes, "Well, you're not at school anymore, are you? You need to get a job." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to uni and I don't know what to do." And he goes, "Here's your boots, your hard hat, your high vis. You start tomorrow morning. We're going up to Brisbane." At the time, we were doing a blood bank in Kelvin Grove, or he was doing, I should say.
Yeah.
And so that was the start of it. It was a week before Christmas, and I started work then. So I thought I was having these 6 weeks holidays. In private school, get longer holidays as well. And I'm, loving it. We got straight into it, and he got me a shovel, and we were hand mixing sand and cement. And while they were screening hundreds of square meters of bathrooms, and we didn't even have a mixer because he was a tight ass and did things the old school way, right? I was taught by a really hard guy.
Yep.
And then that was the start of that. So I've always been quite motivated individual, and I actually took a liking to the trade, and I saw the guys tiling, and straight away I looked at them and I was like, I can't wait to get to that level, and I just really, really want to tile.
Yeah.
So it was my motivation to do things as quickly as I can, to learn as quickly as I can, to pick up the trade. And come 9 months in, he was still, you know, I wanted to move quickly and he was holding me back. And I know why he was holding me back. And I ended up going to work for someone else for a year, who said, come on board with us and we'll teach you how to tile, which that happened. He did. And then he ended up going bust a year later. And so I went back and finished my trade with Andrew. So I ended up doing probably a total of 5 years with Andrew, and with a break in between. But then when I went back, I think I was on my second year of my apprenticeship, and he just said, you can tile now because you obviously so motivated and stuff. And I think I just picked it up really, really quickly, and I was really motivated, and I loved it, because ever since when I was a kid, I was just building stuff. I was building Meccano. I was putting together remote control cars from scratch and building these little petrol engines for remote control cars. I just loved everything to do with building.
Yeah.
And then, so come to the end of my apprenticeship, and I actually had an injury at the gym and tore my pec major and had to have some serious surgery, and I couldn't pick anything up for 6 months. So I had 6 months off the industry. Yeah, it was pretty heavy.
Sounds painful.
It was, yeah. It was a clean snap. It sounded like a towel ripping, and my pec actually hung down towards the bottom of my rib cage because there was nothing else supporting it anymore, and I was black from there to, or I should say, from my chest to my elbow. And that was a time in my life where I started to question what I was going to do as well, because I was like, do I want to continue this? Do I not want to continue this, or whatever it is? And I dabbled in a few other things.
Yeah.
But tiling always pulled me back in. Like, I don't know what it is, but it was some sort of magnetic attraction to tiling that just kept pulling me in. And in 2013, that's when 2012, 2013, I decided to stick it out on Gumtree and just start advertising my own services.
Yeah.
And then so it all kind of started from there. Didn't know anything. Didn't know what an ABN was. Didn't know what an invoice was. Someone asked me for an invoice in the first couple of months, and I just said, I don't know how to do that. Like, what is an invoice?
Well, because back in around, sorry to interrupt, but back in around those times as well, there probably would have been, there's the cash jobs, right? So there's a bit of cash work that goes on weekends and things like that. So it's sort of, it was fairly predominant in the trade industry, in the 80s and 90s and 2000s.
Yeah, and it was still quite common. I think we're getting close to the cusp of where cash started to die off a bit, but I was still in that area, in that zone. And after doing a few jobs off Gumtree, and I'd get a job, do a bathroom, wait 7 weeks before the next bathroom came up, do that in a few days, wait another 4 weeks. And then someone asked for an invoice, and I'm like, I don't know how to do that. So I went to a news agency and bought like one of those little invoicing.
Oh, the carbon books.
Yeah, and I was trying to work out how to write a bloody invoice. I didn't know what I was writing in there. I was just making up all this stuff. Anyways, so look, from there it kind of progressed. At the end of 2013, I kind of won. I learned how to do a quote on an app, and I won my first good job. It was about $8,000, and I had 4 bathrooms in a really nice luxury home. And during my trade with Andrew, my apprenticeship, I tiled many high-end, many luxury homes, and that's kind of how I learned my trade after Andrew jumped out of commercial and went back into the luxury home space. And then in 2014, I hired my first staff member. I dabbled with hiring staff between 2014 and 2016, and I had about 5 staff members by 2016, but zero processes and systems, zero knowledge, didn't know how to lead, didn't know how to manage, didn't know how to influence. I just didn't have any skills in that field. And at the end of 2016, everyone left. Ended up being on my own again, and it was only 2017, which is really not that long ago, where I was actually on the tools by myself, and I actually laid every single tile myself that whole year. And that was a year when I was kind of questioning, like, I'm a very motivated individual, and I always wanted the most out of myself, and I didn't feel I was getting it. So I thought, what's my purpose? Like, what's my goal? What I want to do here? And then so I ended up deciding I wanted to pull out and started to get my real estate license, was going to go into selling, basically.
Yeah, wow.
And I was getting ready to wrap up a couple of jobs and started getting my sales license. And then I got a phone call for a really, really big custom home. And I still trying to work out where my head was at the time, but it was something about it. Once again, tiling roped me back in, and I was super excited about this house. It was a massive job. There was 2,500 meters of stone to lay in one home.
Mm.
And it was just me at the time. And then the builder was like, do you want the job? And I was like, you kind of fake it till you make it, right? I kind of pretended that I was like, experienced, big company and all that kind of stuff. And I just said, yeah, right, I'll do it. So I scrapped my real estate license, just parked that to the side. And I think it was within 4 to 5 months, I had about 10 staff members working for me, but they were all under ABN though, because I hadn't developed a full structure yet. But that really motivated me to build aesthetic. And that was in 2018. And that's when things really kicked off. And then from then on, it was just trying, failing, trying to build a management team, failing, trying to hire a supervisor, failing, trying to build system and processes, failing, getting punched in the face a million times, trying again. And there were so many things that could have taken me out, but I think I'm just stubborn, right? I'm just business owners are extremely stubborn. And I could cop the punches, wanted to quit 1,000 times, but just kept trying to go through the motions and ended up employing a business coach 4 years ago. And
wonderful.
I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, man, that's an awesome story. And thanks for sharing so much information about everything in your past. And certainly it looks and smells like exactly like, what entrepreneurs go through when they're creating businesses, right? There's that regular experience failure. Hey, success. Wow, got there. There's that perseverance, that continual drive to get through the other side and go, hey, wow, I learned so much from those mistakes and I'm so much better for it. And my business and the people that are on the journey are so much better for it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you start attracting some pretty cool people as well.
Yeah. Law of attraction, mate. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. That's very cool. Well, look, you've managed to answer a couple of questions in one, so that's awesome. So we can sort of skip a few things and move forward, but that's great. I suppose, and you provided some good feedback on the episode brief, which was great. And one of the questions that I had, I wanted to sort of focus a little bit on is sort of what sort of gets you excited every day about the game and tiling, and I suppose an extension to that is also what is it about excites you about business, right? That you're sort of using tiling, I suppose, as a vehicle. I mean, you've obviously, tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think for me, once again, it's tiling kept pulling me back in, and I was always I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur, and I always had this higher vision of myself. Obviously the benefits that come with entrepreneurship, but also all the challenges that come with it too. But I thought, I'll start this business, or I'll go be a real estate agent, or I'll go be a developer, or whatever I was going to do, because I've also bought property and split blocks and flipped houses, and I've done that stuff in the last decade. But tiling just kept pulling me back in, and it's almost like I still struggle to try to actually pinpoint exactly what it is with tiling. But I think it's just the building components of tiling, starting with absolutely nothing and starting with a vision. Let's just say a bathroom. And it's really up to the creator to try to work out what they want to do in that space. And it's endless. It's the creativity of your brain. But not only do you have to unlock this creative side of your brain to understand what particular product you want in that space, but it takes an absolutely skilled craftsman to execute it.
Yeah.
And I'm one to dive into big challenges. I'm not scared of big challenges. If anything, I welcome them. So I think the challenging component of tiling is something that I've always been attracted to and I've always welcomed. I've always said that to be a basic tiler is a 4 to 5 year, you call it an apprenticeship, just to really know the basic skills. But it takes another decade to really fine tune those skills to apply to many different fields. And even now, I've only been off the tools for a couple of years, but the time that I was on for 12 or 13 years, I learned a bit, but there's so much more that my team are executing now that I've never done before, and even baffles me the stuff that they can do that I've never been able to do. And the level of craftsmanship across the different types of individuals depending on their skills and their sweet spots is just super fascinating. But I do get excited about the business component as well. I mean, I've loved building a, an organization with structure, with leadership, with management, with systems and processes. And once, in the past, I was extremely resistant to all of those things. Now I've realized the benefits of being able to build an organization like that, not for me per se, but more so for the individuals that are in it, because we've been able to level up a lot of the individuals within our organization just from tilers, but teaching them management skills, teaching them leadership skills, interpersonal skills, teaching them how to deal with issues at home better, teaching them how to deal with issues with their, maybe their kids better, or reactiveness, or, whatever it may be across the board. I get a kick out of that type of stuff too. So the tiling component is great, and I get a kick out of the tiling. I get a kick out of building. I get a kick out of business. I get a kick out of personal development. But I've been able to integrate my life around all the things that I love. And I think with being authentic, and once you can jump into this authentic zone, this integration of all of these things together create this, it's almost like a symphony, like a harmony, where you're playing a piano or someone's playing a violin and everything just starts clicking together. Yeah. And I say I hope, but I feel that my team feel the same way. I honestly do. That we're all in the same direction and we're all trying to achieve very, very similar goals. So I get, like you said, what excites you about it? It's the integration of a lot of different things that I get a lot of joy out of.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I remember when we met on site in your shop on the Gold Coast, and I was nearly eaten alive. No, I wasn't really. Puppy's beautiful. We spoke for a little while, but you did share with me on that first meeting a little bit about how you lead your team and the time that you spend with them, and the one-on-one sessions, and coaching and encouraging them, and identifying what do they want to do in life? Like, what's their purpose? How do they want to be in a few years' time, and how do they want to be in 12 months? And you take the time to identify, you shared with me, you take the time to identify what their pathway is, so that you can help them get there. Because some people, as you mentioned, some people just want to be tilers. They don't want to be anything else. So they love the trade. They love getting up every day. They love mixing adhesives. They love grouting, whatever it might be. They might just love the craft of creating a really funky design or executing on what a customer's asked for. So So just tell me a little bit more about that. How does do you have like a real specific system that you use with your team? Is it a yearly thing? Tell us more about that.
On more like a holistic level, it's more so putting people in their sweet spots.
Yeah.
So everybody has a right to be happy in their own right. And depending on where you're happy in your own right, that makes you successful in your own right. So if someone is really happy going to work and laying tiles all day and being an absolute craftsman, and they know that they can maintain that, which is really important because of the body and everything, right? Yeah. They know they can maintain that for a long period of time without doing any kind of long-term damage, with heavy lifting, with wearing masks, with wearing earmuffs, with, all the PPE that you need. And that means that person is then successful in their own right, because that's what they love and that's what makes them happy. Then there's, someone who is doing those duties but is not happy, and it doesn't really know where to go from here. And I can see someone that is doing the trade but is not exactly into it because they want a little bit more. And it's been great for us to develop this organization, this framework, to be able to speak to people and go, okay, well, this is where you are now. What does the next 6 months or the next 12 months or the next 2 years look like for you? And what can we do to help you get there? And we've done it a bit in the organization, but it doesn't necessarily happen perfectly on the first go, because we might have economical conditions. We might have a plan of action for the business, and in 12 months, we're going to be here, and we take a step back because something's happened staffing wise, or something's happen economic wise, or we might have hit a legal issue, or whatever might happen. But the intentions are there, and we have been successful in elevating people through through the company. And putting people in their sweet spot, I think, is really, really, really important, because when someone goes to work every day, they want to be motivated by the stuff that interests them. And if you're motivated by the things that interest you, you're going to enjoy the process a lot more. So the first thing I ask interviewees who want to be, technicians or tilers, I say, what do you love doing? Do you love laying walls? Do you love laying floors? Do you like screeding, or do you like laying pools or cladding or whatever it is? Because if I know that I can put them straight away in a spot where they feel comfortable. And not to say that you're going to be doing that stuff all the time, but at least you're going to be in a spot where it's a bit more favorable to your needs or the things that you love to do. And then, someone might come in and go, look, I'm a tiler, but I want to be a supervisor. I want to learn how to manage. I want to learn how to lead. And I'll go, great, this is how we're going to start. And this is the process for you to get there.
Yeah.
And I think because then, without sounding arrogant, I guess that kind of makes me a bit of a mentor, and going, okay, I'm going to kind of mentor you down this process, but I've also got a mentor. I've got 3 mentors actually, and I've got a business coach, a life coach, and actually a psychologist. And between these 3 mentors for me, I've been able to break through a lot of upper limiting beliefs and learn how to break through these levels. And my mentors have mentors. And so what my mentors are teaching me is the diluted stuff that they're getting from their really high up mentors, right? So the stuff that I'm feeding to my team is a diluted, more concentrated, diluted and concentrated is probably 2 different things. But I should actually say concentrated is the word I'm looking for. Is a more concentrated version of everything that I'm learning, and I can now teach that framework to my team. So. And
the flip side, sorry to interrupt, but the flip side of that too, is that you attract really good candidates in the future, because you've built a reputation around, I suppose, leading and elevating people around you, right? So, when you start looking for, the next apprentice or the next tiler, or, the next experienced tiler, people will go, you need to go and work with Luca. That's just, there's nobody else. So it's a pretty excellent position to be in. Yeah,
like I'd like to think so. Like that would be nice if that's what's been set out in the market, and that's my goal. My goal is to create a culture and to create an environment where our team go, I wouldn't want to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like it's just too good. The opportunity is good. It's comfortable. There's work-life balance, which is another thing I would love to touch on next, because I believe that work-life balance is massive for everybody. Something that I've practiced for many years.
Yeah.
Which I think is really, really important to having a long-term career, because like work is great. Don't get me wrong. I have a disgustingly epic work ethic, but I also have a lot of self-respect to create a lot of boundaries in my life to make sure that I'm feeding the right areas properly, including myself first and foremost, and then my family and my business, and the connections and friends and stuff that come after that. But I think it's really important. And so we feed that to our team. We say that we preach family and we preach balance. So whilst, don't get me wrong, I've got 5 key people in management roles, and management roles are salary roles, and they're all kinds of hours, right? And I get that, but our goal is to try to make the roles as organized and structured as possible, so the organization mitigates the risk of kind of living in fight or flight or working to an unstructured schedule or what have you. So that's what we've been trying to implement, but that's the stuff that I've learned through my mentors that I'm kind of passing down. So it's not all about work. That's all we do. That's all we talk about. We spend enough time with each other at work. We see each other more than what we see our families. So work-life balance and taking care of yourself is huge.
Yeah, completely agree. Well, on that, moving forward just a little bit and jumping into some other questions that I have here for you today. Tell me about some of the biggest mistakes that you've made in your career that have helped you and propelled you to where you are today.
I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is one of the biggest mistakes I've made is thinking that I've made it. And I think that's a massive issue. And I've actually seen it with previous team members that I've had who have been also promoted through the ranks and have thought that they've made it. And it's a lead by example thing, because I've preached that behavior. It's now infected into the team as well. And by thinking that I've made it by winning a project that I've always wanted to win, or buying the house that I always wanted to buy, or building the team that I've always wanted to build, or having a certain number of staff that I've always wanted to have, it creates this false level of reality or false level of security where all of a sudden you become content. And then as soon as you become content, that's when, God will, kick you up the butt and go, hey, I think you really need to pull yourself in, because that's not what life is about.
Yeah.
And so having these goals and having these dreams and then achieving them one by one, but in the initial stages, achieving them and thinking that, oh, great, I've achieved it, that's my job done, has been one of my biggest mistakes. And I've learned now that I think I need to keep and maintain a level of intensity all the time and not sit in a place of complacency. Whilst I preach gratitude and contentness, which is super important, because if you can't learn to live in the moment, either you'll never be happy. And if someone said to me now, if your life stayed the same the ways it was now for the rest of your life, would you be happy? And right now I can comfortably say, absolutely. I think I'm living the best life I could ever live. Mm-hmm. So nothing's got a hold of me anymore. I am still motivated, and I'm still, hustle culture, or, hustle mentality, right? Which I'll never lose, because that sits high up in my values. I also can sit back and go, I don't have anything holding me or holding on to me that's going to, create an identity for me, or I think that's going to be an identity for me. Mm. And that's kind of what I've learned from setting a goal and only being happy when I achieve that, because that's when your feet go up. Because once you achieve that goal, you go, oh, I've done it. Cool. Mm. And then you say what's next, but you don't focus on that. You still don't focus on that particular thing. Yeah. So I've got 20 staff now. Great. Cool. I'm just going to kick back and let my ego kick in, and my, all of that, and just go, oh, I'm a successful business owner and stuff. And that's been the biggest slaps in the face I've ever received after those types of moments. So I think humbling myself and enjoying the achievements as they come now, but not letting them kind of calcify me a little bit, if that makes sense. It's a saying that success blunts you, right? So the more success you receive, the more blunt you are as a person, because that's all you're used to. But it's the challenges that actually force you to grow. And so, I really lean into challenges a lot, because of the lessons that challenges can teach you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Yeah, like it's where do I pick up? What do I pick up with there and move forward? I'm not sure, but everything you're saying is stuff that resonates with me. It's things that I've been through in life, and whilst I haven't been, on the tools full time at all in the tiling trade, this business for me, in essence, the podcast and the things that I've done and the companies that I've worked for previously have given me very similar experiences. So yeah, look, it's yeah, that's cool. Well, let's shift gears for a minute, because I really want to, there's been some great content so far, and thank you for sharing too, by the way. I really appreciate it. I want to talk, you touched a few times, you spoke specifically about tiling being a craft, right? And I've had some other tiling contractors on the show previously, and they've spoken about that as well, and about, I remember Andrew from Too Easy Tiling in Melbourne, a lovely bloke, and he's sort of like, we're the magicians of tiling. And look, I agree. It's, there can be some pretty simple tiling jobs. However, depending upon what you're walking into and what preparation's been done or how you're tiling, it can become complicated very, very easily, right? Where do you think the industry, like the tiling industry, needs to improve? Because I'm pretty much in touch with what's going on, but from your perspective, where do you think improvement is required?
I think raising the standards of what people think about tilers. And I understand that every trade, there's a level of craftsmanship involved. But tiling is a very, very intricate finishing detail of an individual project. And even tilers themselves, I think, across the board need to raise their own self-worth and their own standards to be able to stand up and go, I'm a tiler, but I'm also a magician. I'm also a craftsman. I'm also an artsman, because this stuff is really, really important for any tilers out there to feel where, a tiler could be perceived as, grubby, dirty, smelly, dust and, all of that kind of stuff. But one thing I did with aesthetic early days is really try to emphasize the fact that, we can be well spoken, we can be artists, we can be great people, we can, give back to the community, we can be great members of the society. We can be a lot of different things and not just be seen as, oh yeah, you're just a tiler or whatever it is. And that kind of is more so like the fundamental side of it, and the more technical side of it is the artsmanship of it, if that's even a word. Making things up now.
It is now.
It is now. Let's call it artsmanship, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it could take someone 10 years to be a good pool tiler.
Yeah.
And that's just one aspect of tiling. Can you imagine if you became an expert in all fields of tiling, how long it would take you? It's impossible. You can't do it. Someone might be good, they might be great, but I'm talking about an absolute craftsman. So, yeah, look, we've tried to preach this level of respect in the tiling industry, and that's why our team members wear very nice clothes. They wear these black long sleeve shirts with our logos on them, or grey, or whatever we have on site. We dress well, we speak well, we have this level of self-worth that isn't commonly recognized in the industry. And I think especially in the commercial space, yes, we specialize in luxury homes, and that's what those kinds of customers and clients like to see. But even in the commercial space, where that's also seen as like extremely fast pace, you're just another number, all of that kind of stuff, I feel that even in those areas, there can be a bit more of a level of pride and, telling someone, what do you do? Be proud to say I'm a tiler. Because, mate, the things that tilers have been through their trade is absolutely phenomenal. And I was fortunate, I'll say fortunate enough to do my trade with one of the hardest bosses in the industry, I'd have to say. And it taught me how to be an amazing I don't want to toot my horn too much, but I've turned out to be a great tiler, and I've turned out to be a great manager and a great leader, and leadership and that kind of stuff is learnt over time. But I think having those kinds of mentors in the industry early on are really, really good. So in doing my trade through someone that was so tough, I went through a lot and I learned a lot, and I created a lot of character and backbone. And then that kind of helped me and helped guide me into, the journey that I went on. So for tilers to say that I'm a tiler, be absolutely proud of it, because the amount of stuff you have to go through to actually get to even just a tiler status after 4 years is absolutely phenomenal. But then once you go through that next level, which is phase 2, finish your apprenticeship and then start to learn a specific area in the field, whether it might be, mastering bathrooms or mastering stone cladding or tiling pools, whatever it may be. That's a whole nother level of evolution right there as well. So I just feel that there just needs to be more self-respect, and the guys or anybody listening to this podcast who's in the tiling game, who's in, their first year of their apprenticeship right through to a business owner, whatever it may be, just have pride in every single aspect of it, because tilers, I think, are undervalued a lot in the industry, and we need to kind of stick up for that a little bit more.
Yeah, it's awesome. Taking pride in your work is really important, particularly in a finishing trade, right? Because you are the last people on a job site. It's what's seen. It's what It's what people. It's what customers have this vision of what their tiled area is going to look like, and you guys are the ones actually there putting it together and making it look amazing. And not only that, it's also something that usually, I mean, if you look back in early BC days, and you see some of the amazing tiling work that they uncover in sort of, in the Roman Empire and overseas in Europe, and it's been there for like thousands of years, and it's meticulously placed, right? So and they've done a lot of work. And back then, they didn't have the luxury of having 24,000 different adhesives to choose from. It was just mud, right? So, but it's still there today. So, taking pride in your work is so important. And I think from what I see as well is that if I'm going to answer the question that I've asked, taking shortcuts in tiling work is never a good choice. There's always someone paying for that work, and as you know, the charging for tiling installation is not it can be competitive, but it's also a very it's a luxury price that you pay for generally really high quality work. I mean, a bathroom can cost 15 to 20 to 25 grand on average today. So taking shortcuts really needs to be one of those things that you just don't even contemplate when you're doing some tiling work.
Yeah, and it's hard because then, a lot of times you get into these spaces and you're fixing other people's mistakes. And I don't want to, say shit on the industry, if you will, for the lack of a better word. But the tilers are there, and the tilers are the ones that are held accountable for the end product. If a builder's wall is out of level and we follow the builder's work, we're going to get done for it. And it's always on us, and we'll get blamed for it because as part of the Australian standard state, if we've tiled a substrate, it means that we've accepted it. And if we've accepted it, now we're going to be held accountable for it. So tilers do get the shit end of the stick. Yes. And that's what really does affect the way work is executed. And especially when you have someone with the wrong mentality who is not motivated about the tiling trade itself, there are probably going to be some shortcuts here and there. But, we've just had to cop it. We've just had to accept it and just let go and say, look, we are that final trade. We are the trade that's going to fix, 8 months of building works, basically, if it gets to that. I'm not saying that's all the time, but, on those types of jobs. So if we take a shortcut at that point in time, it just can be a flow-on disaster. And it's better to slow down, take your time. One of the biggest things I do with my team is just say, if you're uncomfortable about something, just don't do it. Don't tile it and come back and say, oh, I was a little bit out, so I just you know what I mean? It's just make a phone call, make the builder aware, make the customer aware. We try to, as much as we possibly can, bring the client through the process and say, hey, your wall's out, whatever it is, 6 mil. Do you want us, if we make it plumb, we've got to pack out this much by the time we get to the top. What do you want to do? And then we're not scared to raise variations or anything like that because we know our self-worth. But one of the biggest tips that I would recommend is make sure you raise your variations before you start them, because you're going to try to raise them at the end, you're never getting paid for them. So, and the builders don't have a right to pay you either. So get your systems and processes right from the get-go, and you won't have any issue. And you'll also gain a lot of respect, I think, in the industry, but that'll help you be more comfortable with, I guess, looking at something and going, should I take that shortcut or not? Because you can go, oh, look, I'll go work in another area first. I'm going to raise this with this particular person and just say, what do you want to do here? And have a frank conversation. It's not about taking anything personally. It's just about, this is our issue. Let's get to a solution.
Yeah. And the key being communication, right? It's communicating with all the relevant parties right throughout the process, beginning, middle, end, and then probably sometimes in between those spaces as well, so that everyone's on the same page. Because you develop really good relationships with your clients, with your builders. And then when they get the phone call, they're like, oh, okay, so what's the challenge? What do we need to do? Where are we at? It's when you get to the end of a job and you don't raise anything throughout the course of operating, and then you go, oh, but there was these 4 things that caused us issues throughout the job. It's like, well, why didn't you say something? Don't.
And that's exactly right. And that's what, being in both sides of it, being a one-man band for many, many, many years, and then now running an organization, I've seen both sides of the fence. And, one of the biggest issues I had when I was tiling on the tools myself, doing everything, is making those phone calls because I just had an end goal in mind and I just needed to get the job done because I needed to get to the next one. And one of the hardest things for someone, and I can relate and I can sympathize to anybody in that position, that it's not that easy to just sit back and go, all right, I'm going to raise this and go do something else, because there might not be a something else. You might need, to send an invoice by this day or whatever it is, but try to break through that level of thinking and actually start thinking professionally and going, no, this is the way we're going to do it, and make sure you get everything on paper.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool, mate. Again, look, love to know a little bit more about Aesthetic Tile and Stone and the tile supply. Now, I know Aesthetic Tile and Stone has been around since around about 2012, I think. Is that? Yeah. Tile supply is newer part of your business. Tell us a bit more about tile supply, and tell us about how you market your businesses. Like, how do you go to market, and what sort of platforms you're using? Social media, websites, word of mouth, print, might still be out there. I'm not sure.
It's
there. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
sponsorships. Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Aesthetic Tile and Stone is obviously our installation company, and we've had that for about 10 plus years. It's still going strong. It's growing. We've focused the last couple of years on really dialing in the systems and processes and leadership and management teams. And that's look, it's been absolutely amazing being involved in aesthetic for a number of years, and for few years now, I've had an idea to open up a tile shop and an online store, and it's always been on the cards. But I was so focused on other things in the past, I wasn't ready. I hadn't earned the right to start this second business until I knew that it was, until I earned the right, until I found the right time and space to be able to do it for starters, without neglecting aesthetic, because aesthetic is what's brought me to where I am today. And the last thing I want to do is compromise that. So being able to juggle the time, start a second business, completely separate business with separate staff and everything else, I needed to make sure that aesthetic was absolutely solid and our clients were still being served at a very high level and our teams weren't being compromised, because the time that I needed to then go and do the other business would pull me away a little bit from aesthetic. But I wanted to make sure that I had the right team around me to do it. So we've been able to do that. We've been able to build a phenomenal team within aesthetic. And I'm just really, really proud. Just can't say it enough. I'm just proud of everybody in our organisation. So if they're listening, totes to them for being able to allow me the space to do things like start the tile supply, which it's a tile supply business. And we've got a showroom on the Gold Coast, and we've got an online store with about 3,000 tiles on the website. So our goal is to be Australia's largest online tile shop. We've got massive goals. We've got massive aspirations. Everything that we're doing in the tile supply directly benefits Aesthetic Tile and Stone as well. It is honestly a match made in heaven. We can scale aesthetic faster than we ever thought we could because of the tile supply. It's natural, right? It's organic. People come in and buy tiles. They need tilers. We're obviously the first people that we're going to recommend. Aesthetic is, right? Yeah. And then vice versa. Aesthetic then feeds work through our organic database that we've developed over the last 10 years. Can feed, leads and marketing material down, to the tile supply. So you couldn't pick a better collaboration between two completely separate businesses. And the tile supply, I've had Jenny, who's my general manager for the tile supply now. Was with Aesthetic for about two years, and she helped me build all the systems and processes within Aesthetic. Oh, and this is probably another point I should make: always hire people better than you. That is one of the best things I've learned ever in my life, is hiring people better than you, because I would never be able to do or be where we are today in the businesses without having people that have more knowledge than me in their fields, including our project manager on with Aesthetic Tile and Stone, and just run it way better than what I can. But it's good because it's created this symphony, this collaboration of all these heads having different ideas based on previous experiences and whatnot. And then so with Jenny helping us systemize Aesthetic, she's then moved over to Tile Supply and she's done most of the work in building that business out. And then so now the tile supply is operational. We've got a national sales director who's been in the business for about 15 years selling tiles, and he's absolutely phenomenal and
cool.
so good at what he does. And then so it's basically me, Jen, and Ben that are firing on the tile supply at the moment. And the tile supply doesn't actually take up too much of my time because I'm still very, very hands-on in aesthetic, because that's what I love. I've actually held on to, the sales and the estimating side of things. I love that side of it, hustle culture, back to that.
Yeah.
I like meeting people. I like talking to people and I like, so that side of it. And then so with aesthetic, the way we've been able to market ourselves is mainly organic. So it's just been doing a job, getting a recommendation or repeat work or whatever it may be. On our socials, we have tried to be a little bit more professional and systemized with our social media posting. So trying to get a couple of posts out a week from previous jobs, maybe some progress photos of some jobs. I think a good advice for anybody out there is who's trying to build a business is hiring a good media team, and we've been able to hire a pretty good media team who's been able to do a lot of videos and pretty much showcase everything that we're doing, and we've chopped them down into little reels and bits and pieces. And it looks like from a front end aesthetic it looks great, but on a back end it runs really well as well. So
cool.
That's been great on that front. And then so with all of the organic leads and customers that aesthetics had over the last decade, it's natural for the tile supply to latch onto those and start making phone calls and try to see if we can get any of those people interested in getting some tile sales across the line. And that's where we've really hit the ground running with with the tile supply, because aesthetic has developed that database over the last few years. And I think with the marketing side, anything online is just so important for both businesses. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We don't do email mail outs, I should say. We haven't done any of those yet, or newsletters. There's a lot of things in the cards that we're going to start doing soon. But from a marketing point of view, it's been very basic. No paid ads. There hasn't been anything out of the ordinary outside posting a photo of a job that we say this is what we do, maybe posting a video saying, hey, this is what we're up to last month. I'm not shy to get on the phone. So if I drive past a job site and I see a banner up and a builder I've never heard of, I'm calling them straight away. That's just I think that's important, if you're trying to build out.
It's good DNA to have, mate. You see something on the side of the road and you go, haven't spoken to that person before, I'll just give them a ring.
Yeah. And even if they don't need anything, you've had a good chat, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's cool, man. Love it. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. We've obviously been through some pretty challenging times, the past few years. And the pandemic certainly threw a spanner in the works for a lot of people in many different ways, but without sort of focusing too much on that. Has your business evolved dramatically or significantly during that time post-pandemic? Were things different, or were they the same? What happened for you guys?
Yeah, that hurt. COVID really hurt. I was in a pattern of with aesthetic, because tile supply wasn't around at the time, and I was in a pattern of winning the work and doing the work and not really understanding how a pipeline of work flows. And then so once I would win all this work, I would then stop quoting, and I would then it'd have a flow-on effect 3 months later. But I used to be able to pick it up pretty quickly because I'm not shy to get on the phone. So we'd do all this work, and then I'd find myself having no work for whoever team members we have on board. And I'd get on the phones and I'd pick up jobs quite quickly. In May 2020, that was at that point where we'd finished a lot of the jobs that we'd been on, and I hadn't been quoting because I was just spoiled for work, and work was just coming across the plate. And then all of a sudden it was, we're down to sending 6 guys home, and we've got 2 guys on the field now, and that was really, really tough. And it was another one of those punches in the face to go, have we got the right amount of cash flow to fund this and to cash flow this over the next whatever it is, because I was calling all of these builders and all of these customers to try to get on a job, and everyone's saying, mate, we've just stopped work, we've even stopped a build halfway through because we don't know if the world's going to go through a pandemic or whatever's going to happen. So it was really, really hard times. And I think that was a period of time where I kind of reevaluated and I went, I need to change the way I do things and the way I see things. And then through coaching as well, I developed an understanding on how to build out a pipeline successfully with, we're booked out 3 months in advance, we're booked out 4 months in advance or whatever it is, and learning how to fill holes where I can. And I think that's been the biggest game changer for me, because it adds a level of like security and comfort knowing that, we've got X amount of employees and we're booked out X amount of time in advance. And when that pipeline starts to reduce down time-wise, then I know I need to, get on the phones, or we'll need to start making those phone calls again to get that pipeline filled back up. But, one of the biggest mistakes in that field is when you win all this work, you think that's it. I've won all this work, I don't need to do anything else. But it's one of the biggest misconceptions ever. When you're at your busiest, that's when you should be quoting the most, because those busy times are about to fall into a lull or come to an end, and you need something to go on to as well. And one of the other things was relying on one or two big builders. That was one of the biggest mistakes I've made as well. So whilst I'm very, very grateful for those particular builders that provided us with those kinds of work and added a layer of security for us for a long period of time, when the work dried up with those builders and we were kind of left twiddling our thumbs going, what do we do? So I've also learned how to spread my my client base and customer base across all different types of people, if you will, from mum and dads to builders to developers to private clients and strata and body corporates and stuff like that. So there's always kind of like a really nice balance of different types of people across the pipeline, and that's what COVID taught me, was to make sure that diversification of business is extremely important, because you spend all this time building a team, you spend all this time building your management team, your site supervisors, your senior technicians, your TAs, and you've spent so much time developing a trade assistant to be a tiler, and all of a sudden all that can come to an end if you haven't managed your pipeline properly. And when you've got 20 staff, you need to make sure that that's consistent. There's work every single day for them. Because otherwise you put all this time into developing these roles, and there's, at the end of it, you're going to go down to, oh, sorry guys, we don't have any work for a month. So I think COVID kicked me up the butt with that, and to learn new ways of managing aesthetic and managing aesthetics pipeline to suit the level of staff we have. And now we don't really manipulate our staff too much according to the jobs we have. So I won't go and take on a big job if I know that we don't have the capacity with our staff, because I'm not going to go out and hire 5 people in one hit. That's, because we spend time developing roles. So I would rather not win jobs and just hold back a bit and say, no, like, I'm not going to build this team out because it's not the right time yet, and make sure that our team is comfortable and know what they're doing, rather than hiring 5 guys, getting to the end and then having to sack 5 guys and going, it's kind of this up and down cycle, and I don't like that. It's predictability, it's consistency, and it's making sure that we have that flow running through the business. And starting the tile supply was another reason. Back to your question, what have we really changed? The tile supply really started because I said, it was actually a year and a half ago. Big wave of COVID, another big wave of COVID came through, and everybody got it in one hit, and half our team was at home, and it was just nuts. And I said, I need a way to mitigate our risk, and I need a way to, have one business being able to fund the other if shit goes down, or the other one fund the other if shit goes down. And because aesthetic is such a labor heavy business, because we're installing tiles, I said, I need something to offset that, to mitigate our risk, and not necessarily to cash flow one business, but also if people are walking in through the tile supply and they're wanting to buy tiles, well, they're going to want installs done as well. So that mitigated our risk as well, of having this pipeline and having to keep this pipeline so full, and the pressure of it. Aesthetic adds that layer of protection. The tile supply adds a layer of protection to aesthetic to be able to keep that pipeline nice and consistent. So once again, it's that symphony, it's that piano, it's that violin, it's that harmony that kind of helps feed all the businesses also. I should say both businesses, with the correct, pipeline of work. And then you can make strategic decisions on the back of that. You can go, all right, well, we know exactly where we sit. We know we can fill out our pipeline this far in advance. We know the tile suppliers funding aesthetic with work as well. How big do we want to grow aesthetic this year?
Mm-hmm.
Or what's the goal for the team, our team within aesthetic? Because then it's all about strategic plays now and go, okay, well, we want to get from here to here in 12 months. What do we need to do to get there? All right, we need to add another team. What does that look like? We need to add a site supervisor, 2 technicians and 2 TAs.
Yeah.
And then everything starts to become very planned and very strategic on your growth. And then that's when you can start to scale, but scale with confidence and scale safely.
Yeah, nice. Wow, man, you're a natural at this, right? Just sharing all this information. I really love it. It's been really cool today, and thank you again for sharing, because there's so much to learn from other people's experiences in life, and offering what you guys offer in terms of an installation business, which is where are the grassroots of where you came from in learning tiling and in installation, and then being able to apply, another business arm with the tile supply later on is a real it's a real modern way of looking at things, right? And today customers are becoming more and more time poor, and that's been going on for a number of years now, since social media began and life started to living life became faster because we're so more connected with all of the information. People want to be able to go and have a shopping experience where they can choose some tiles, feel comfortable about the decisions that they've made, and then in the same breath go, how do we get these installed? And the tiling industry has always been an industry where you go into a tile store, you select some tiles, get some amazing service, hopefully, and then you'll go, oh, I need someone to install the tiles, and you'll get some business cards over the counter, and there'll be recommendations, and then you've got to try and get, one of 3 or 4 people actually on the phone. And a lot of times people are busy, right? If they're independent sole traders and they don't have apprentices or labourers with them, it's very difficult to get them on the phone during the day, and then to even get them out to the house. So you're certainly on a winning path with having those businesses together. So well done, man. Awesome.
I hope so. We'll see how it goes. But look, we are quite confident that things are going to take off. It's been a lot of investment. There's a lot of stress, a lot of sleepless nights. There's been a lot of things happening, and there still is, and it's never ending in business. You can't be naive to what the business world actually looks like, but it's all in hope for a kind of a bigger harmonious goal, a goal across, many different legacies.
Yeah, cool. Well, mate, look, I'm going to wrap it up today with, we haven't done the final fast track questions for a while, and I wanted to kick it off again for 2023. So you've been kind enough to handpick some for me, which is awesome. I like that. So let's do that. And then let's find out how people can connect with you post the episode today. So let's start with question number 1, right? What does your morning routine look like?
Okay, so morning routine is 4:15 4:15 a.m. wake up. I meditate for 10 minutes. I then have a green tea. I have a hydrolyte and a green tea, because you sleep, you get dehydrated. So I have a hydrolyte, then I have a green tea. And then I'll, do my thing and get ready, and I'm in the gym. So I'm in the gym by 5 o'clock in the morning, probably train till about 6:30-ish. I come home. I'm quite organized and regimented in my lunch. So I make, 3 meals, my kind of breakfast, mid-morning, mid-lunch kind of thing, and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's all healthy stuff. I'm an extremely healthy person. I don't drink, I don't do anything. So it's all wrapped around, a lot of vitamins, a lot of protein, a lot of veggies, a lot of fruit.
Yeah, awesome.
So that's what my lunches are made up of, and they're quite similar every day. We go down, I probably get to the office around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and that's when my day kind of kicks off. I've been able to develop this balance though. So when I'm at work, I'm on, and when someone goes to work, say, 11 or 12 hours a day, they get a certain amount of stuff done. I can get the same amount of stuff done in 70 hours. I'm extremely efficient and I'm extremely present in everything I do. I usually start to shut down or wind down probably around 3 o'clock, 3:30.
Yeah.
I'm still on call until probably 5:30 though, but not actively working. And I've been going to the magnesium baths and saunas. So I do hot and cold plunge. And I do sauna, and that's probably 4 or 5 days a week. I do that as well. I cook, so dinner's at home, and it usually consists of like a protein or something of the likes. I don't mind my TV time. I play PlayStation. I'm a massive PlayStation fan, right? Yes, you can be an entrepreneur and you can be a gamer at the same time. So screw what everyone else thinks. I love it.
as long as there's a right balance of consumption and entertainment, right? So you obviously you want to be, you're probably 80-20 rule, right? So 80% consumption, 20% entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. And it feeds me and it relaxes me and it's something that really works with me. So, but look, I spend time with Helena, who's my wife, and we spend that we finish dinner around 6 and I'm in bed by 8:30, knocked out, up again at 4. So that's usually what the routine's like.
Nice, mate. Excellent. Well done. I've written some notes up here. I'll apply a few of those things. I like. I have a very similar routine, but it's not about me today. So you've obviously got two growing and successful businesses today. Park that for a minute. If you could start your own business, another business tomorrow, what would it be?
This one's a tough one because what I've learned in business can be applied to anything. I think the framework stays the same across businesses. It's finding great support in administration. It's finding great people that know their trade. It's finding great technicians that execute. It's learning how to develop a leadership and management style within the business to make it grow. So what I've learned can be applied to anything, but if I had to remove what I'm doing now and go into something else, it would be something where I'd look for as a niche, something that's more of like a niche market and that hasn't really been done before. I come up with business ideas all the time and you're putting me on the spot and I can't think of one now. But,
it's okay.
But it's anything in like a niche market and probably towards the e-com, potentially in the e-com space, to like scale and systemize online, something in like an online business, because I really think that's where things are going to be moving towards is towards the online space.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Who's been your most professional mentor since you started, getting into that space?
Probably my wife banging at my head every day, telling me that I need to change.
Awesome. Yeah.
And, she's been a massive instrumental part of my growth. No one, I haven't never been challenged in my life like she's challenged me. And like we spoke about earlier, Mark, she's in the psychology space and she's got a therapy business and in the NDIS field. And it's the stuff that I never really tapped into early days. And she's really helped me change what I thought my reality was and my perception of things and I kind of question, a lot of the things that I do now and all the things that have been holding me back in the past, because she's helped me create a level of awareness around a lot of my upper limiting beliefs and whatnot. But look, having a strong woman by your side is absolutely massive. And I feel I've got that. And I've got a business coach, I've got a life coach, and I've got a psychologist as well. And I think that the stigma around psychology is something that needs to be discussed, because I don't have a psychologist because I need to go, otherwise I'm going to fall apart. It might have been that in the past, but now I go see a psychologist as a mentor. So I look at my year and I go, what do I want to do this year? And to speak personally, if I may, my big thing this year is to improve my empathy and to learn how to be more emotionally available to the my close people around me and my team as well. And something that I've struggled with a lot in the past is empathy and expressing emotions. So I went to my psychologist and I just said, this year I want to learn how to be more empathetic and how to be more emotionally available, especially for Helena, because I know that I'm not filling her cup as much as I should be as a husband. So I think it's really important to view where we can improve. And if nothing changed now, And if I didn't do anything now, lives will be good. Nothing would really collapse or anything, but I'm not settling for good. I want to settle for great. So I'm going to go seek these mentors out that are going to help me elevate to this great level. And yeah, that's why I see my psychologist, and I don't, I look at her as a mentor because she's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. Excellent, man. It's terrific. I mean, I remember a number of years ago, I was listening to Richard Branson's audio book, The Virgin Way. It's one of the many, many books that he's done. And he talks specifically about a time when he was developing the name for the record company. And I can't look, I'd be lying if I said I could recite the entire version of the event, but it was about how he was choosing the name Virgin versus the name something else. And I'd have to go back over the audiobook again to remember it specifically. But I remember him talking to his, it might have had something to do with a cola or something. And the moral of the story was he always consulted his wife and his family when they were around, when he was making decisions on business and on things that he does, because he knew that the impact of the things that he does in business reflect the things that occur in his personal life. So what better voice to have than your partner in crime,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
they you don't always necessarily have to take their advice on board, but they're going to give you a pretty sobering look at some of the decisions that you make, and they're going to go, really, you want to call something Virgin Cola? Like, is that really what you want to do? because you think it's a great idea, and you go, oh, well, my God, this is awesome, it's amazing, I've come up with this concept, and ego takes over, and all of a sudden you go, oh, I'm just going to go and do it. And then, but if you don't get some counseling and coaching around that, and engage with people that live with you 24/7, you can make some shitty decisions.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's really important to create a safe space for that person to be able to give you feedback as well, because there's a lot of times where people haven't been able to create that safe space. So you might ask someone for advice, and then they'll tell you something, and then you'll get defensive and you'll get offended, and you'll get all up in your own grill. But it's learning how to remove yourself away from the picture, and learning how to not take things personally, and create that safe environment for someone to be able to turn around and actually say what they think without fearing the reaction in return. And that's been a massive thing for me to learn over the last few years, because I wasn't necessarily the greatest person to create a safe space 5-6 years ago. But over time, I've learned how to slowly, hopefully now I feel that I create a safe space for people. And that's when people really, truly can come to you and say, this is what you're doing wrong, or this is what you can improve on, or this is what I think about your Virgin, a name idea, and not fear, the other person getting offended or defensive or whatever it may be.
Yeah, exactly. Well, mate, you've been incredible today. You've shared an enormous amount of information with us. I really appreciate you being on the show, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people that listen to this episode are going to they're going to really love hearing, what we've been talking about today. And I think in conclusion, I'd just like to sort of reach out to you and say, hey, look, how do the audience connect with Luca LaPena, with Aesthetic Tile and Stone, with the Tile Supply? What's the best way for them to reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, so like in its simplest form, you can find me on Instagram, which is just my full name, no dots or underscores or anything. It's Luca and LAPENNA, Luca LaPena.
Awesome.
And on that, you'll see 2 links on my bio to both businesses, and then so you can click over and find the businesses from there. In the same token, I'm on LinkedIn, Luca LaPena, and on Facebook as well. So that's the best way to reach out.
Awesome, mate. Well, look, we'll absolutely have that in all of the show notes when we go live with the episode. And again, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it. We'll probably run a little bit longer than envisaged, but that's what happens when great conversations occur. And I really appreciate you sharing your history in the industry, and look forward to some pretty awesome stories in the future.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. Look, it's an honor to be on the show. When you asked me, I was kind of a bit gobsmacked sometimes we don't feel worthy to do stuff like this, but look, I really appreciate you recognizing that, and you're doing some amazing things. And I think that once again, this is what the industry really needed is a podcast and is education on other people and what other people are doing in the industry. So I think you're going to make some big moves, Mark. So thank you for everything that you do. And yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Mate, you're very welcome. Thanks again. Have a fantastic day, buddy.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Tiling Connect. Don't forget to rate and review this podcast. To see more of Tiling Connect, jump on our socials and follow us via LinkedIn, Instagram and Facebook. If you'd like to be part of the show, email us at tilingconnect@gmail.com. Until next time, stay connected.